to speak of 20 minutes. The first one is I will introduce Regina in chemical, and she is the founder and executive director of a very beautiful project that is Open Kids Africa.
Thank you very much. Yes, you got the name right as well. Today I'm going to be talking about repurposing digital materials for tech lessons in rural schools. And the sub-heading of that is basically bridging the digital divide. Before I start, I would like to say first that if you have been consuming digital content, if you have used digital content either for learning, even outside school context, then you would understand better the perspective of this talk and why it's very important. So for this agenda, I'm going to be speaking about three things. I'll be talking about understanding the challenge digital divide in education. I'm going to be using sub-Saharan Africa as a context for this conversation. And why am I starting like this? Because I feel like if you understand the challenge that we're having, then you can understand what repurposing means when we get there. And afterwards, I'll be talking about exploring solutions. And one of the solutions I'm sharing today is the concept of repurposing digital materials in rural schools. And after, I'll be talking about implementation strategy and overcoming challenges. The implementation strategy is going to be more like shedding light on what we do in Open Kids Africa and how we are currently proposing current digital materials in rural schools in Africa. So let's start with understanding the challenge digital divide in education. If you take a look at these two pictures, you have a picture with students with computers, and then you have the other picture with students using their hands with no computer at all. When we talk about digital divide, this can tell you the opportunity that it poses for the students on the left and the opportunity that it poses for the students on the right. So let's use sub-Saharan Africa as a context. There is a research that says, according to UNESCO's report for 2020, that in sub-Saharan Africa, 89% of learners lack access to household computers, and 82% lack internet connectivity. What does this mean when children of a younger age, younger learners, lack access to internet connectivity or lack access to computers? Taking a look at this distribution chart, you would see that there is an internet access comparison between low versus high income countries. Low income countries can be situated around African zone, sub-Saharan Africa, and then we have high income countries. The first chart talks about low income countries. Those that do not have access to the internet are 95%. And so that tells you that the young learners or children that have access to the internet is just 5%. For high income countries, those with internet access is 90%, and that tells you that those that don't have the opportunities for internet is 10%. Already you can begin to see the opportunities as well that it poses for these different people. So, according to UNICEF, internet access in low-income countries is quite limited. So it's saying that if we're saying only 5%, we're saying 1 in 20 of school-age children have internet access at home. So, meaning that 19 children in 20, they don't have internet access. In high-income countries, a proportion of 90% of school children have access to internet. And we're saying 9 in 10 children have access to internet. What is the impact of this digital divide? Children with access to internet, children without access to internet. One of the impacts is limited access to information. You and I can tell that most of the content now are not digitally available. High quality content in education and tech is digitally available, and there's a need for internet to be able to access them, leaving a large chunk of people in sub-Saharan Africa without quality education. The next thing there is widening the educational gap. The educational gap between low and high income schools are very, very wide because they are, of course, they have access to information. And then there's negative impact on teachers' training. Teachers do not have access to high curriculum that would help them engage children in higher educational learning as well. And then, of course, the impact of the curricula that they are going to be sharing as well is going to be quite low. So, exploring solutions, I'm going to be talking about repurposing digital materials in your school, like I said earlier. And what does it mean to repurpose? The other word for repurpose is reuse, right? Recycle, using something that's been already made available to gain larger impact. So I highlighted here that repurposing digital materials for tech lessons involves adopting existing resources for new learning. So rather than creating new digital content, it's basically using the digital content we have at the moment to solve a critical problem in rural schools. So I picked a few of the digital platforms, just to give you a context of the usage of these digital platforms. So we have code.org, we have Scratch, and then we have MIT App Inventor. The code.org basically currently, it has not increased as of the time of this presentation, has over 90 million users as students and has over 2.7 million educators using that platform at the moment. And this particular platform is used to teach teachers, young learners, computer science courses, and it's available for free as well. The Scratch also currently has over 100 million users, which is basically a platform for young learners to learn how to code using blocks and games. And then we have the MIT App Inventor, which have users of over 21.1 million users, which is basically a platform that helps children to learn how to develop applications in Android. All of these platforms are available for free. So let me tell you a little bit about a case study that basically we do within Open Kids Africa. What Open Kids Africa does is that we repurpose this content and create a curriculum that helps us deliver tech lessons in rural schools. We started a project about 3 years ago, concentrating in Ibadan, Nigeria, basically rural schools in Ibadan, Nigeria. And our focus point was basically repurposing digital materials like Scratch and tech resources for tech lessons. So basically what we do is that we build curriculum using these two platforms to teach children how they can be technology savvy, learning code, and also how they can see themselves doing technology careers in the future. What did we do basically? We found that for demography, we had about 60% of the students are female, interested in technology at a young age in these rural schools. How we implemented this, we used, like I said, resources like Scratch. Scratch basically gave us a platform for interactive coding lesson, and the tech materials gave us a platform for understanding technology concepts at a very young age. We trained the students on these courses, we gave them lesson plans to do, and it was really interesting. We ensured that the platforms that we have decided to use have offline content available. So it means that there is no need for internet for us to be able to deliver these technology lessons to these children in these rural schools. The things we found was very interesting after our training sessions. We found that these children were able to understand things around coding and programming using the Scratch platform. We found that they understood some skills around problem solving, how to solve problems. We also found that they had creative and logical thinking improved from before we came to the picture of delivering this tech lesson. We found that they understand the concept of collaboration, working with themselves to solve a particular problem. Because basically these things are already available in these platforms that we are basically sharing. Then we're able to teach them STEM foundations. That's basically courses that help them to understand things around virtual reality, AI, in a more playful environment. So they understand this concept and they can aspire to become technologists in the future. We also showed them that they, regardless of the gender, whether male or female, they can also aspire to be innovators of apps or basically robotics engineers in the future. So we took the statistics of the rural school before we started the training and after we started our training. And our statistics was basically around the impact of tech. How much does these children want to learn about technology? And we found that before the training, they had 9% about technology. And you could understand why the interest was very low before the training. They don't have the resources, they don't understand the opportunity that tech brings to them. And then after the training, we found that average students had about 7%. So we put 5 schools in perspective of the statistics. And you can see the margin from before the training and after the training, how much interest that this has been able to build in this children. We also got some feedbacks. Some of the students said things like, now I know how technology helps us in so many ways, like at school, at home, our communities, and across different fields of grown-up jobs. And this says, thank you, Look It Africa. And the teacher said that the session was quite interactive, and it made the children see many possibilities with technology. Prior to us beginning the platform to share these technological resources to these schools, they didn't have these ideas. So you would ask me, then what is then the benefits of repurposing digital materials for tech lessons in rural schools? Some of the benefits are it's cost effective. One is that these materials are already available. You don't have to think of building new materials from scratch. You just have to think of using them. And then stakeholders can channel resources to other areas like infrastructure rather than creating digital content. And also it has, of course, high quality content. You can also customize this to local context and personalized learning, because then you can decide to use different languages of this, of course, with permission of the owners of the content. And then you are promoting digital literacy, basically thereby helping digital divide in these schools, and also teachers also can get support and development from those platforms. So, implementation strategies and overcoming challenges, and this is where I will be joining the curtain. How have we been able to implement repurposing these materials for the past 3 years? And this is basically the steps we have followed. This is the six steps that we have followed. One of the things we do in the team is that we identify. This is the place where we try to find digital content that will best suit the children in the rural school that we are detailing with. We try to work with not just ourselves, but also educators and also communities in that rural area. We also begin the next step of selecting. This is where we now decide on the choice of digital resources that we want to include in our tech lessons. And after that, we begin to customize this content to fit the context of the schools that we are going to be delivering these lessons into. Then, of course, like you have seen in the previous slide, we begin to train these children using these courses that we have already customized. And then we implement. The part for implementing now is basically where we now take our curriculum and implement across different rural schools in Africa. After this, we collect feedback to see that if there are things we need to improve on the curriculum and to see if there are areas or special needs of these children that we would get digital content that would help solve this problem as well. The stakeholder roles in overcoming challenges. If you have created a digital content or educational digital platform, please can you just say hi? Have you used or created an educational digital platform? You've used, okay, great. So if you're an educator, then you say hi, okay. Why I ask this question is that you might just think the things I'm doing are different, and how can what I'm doing impact rural areas? And that's why I drew up the 4 stakeholders that could help this problem. One of the stakeholders is government. If you have an affiliation with government, the government plays a very key role basically in policy making. Understanding that we have thousands of digital content online, and these content are not going to work their ways into rural schools, that they need to be delivered in rural schools, and they can focus on creating infrastructures that will help these content to be delivered in these schools. Secondly, the communities are also important. The parents are important. The communities around the rural school are important to see the need of using this content to basically build young learners that are going to be innovators in the future. Educators are important as well because they are the ones that are basically going to implement these digital tools. So what we are doing is that we are working with educators to be able to deliver these tech lessons. So they need the training required to be able to deliver the tech lessons. And last, creators of education, digital platform. One of the ways that we were able to successfully use the platform that I spoke of in the last slide was mainly because these platforms are available offline. So digital creators should learn to create content as well that will be available offline to help those in areas with low internet to be able to access their resources seamlessly. Finally. So for these strategies, like I said earlier, we've talked about upgrading infrastructure and providing infrastructure, and also importance for teachers training, community involvement, and ensuring sustainability of resources. So you might ask me, what does it mean that these resources are sustainable? Resources are sustainable in this case when we're able to collect feedback, give back this feedback to the digital creators, and they implement this feedback as we continue to use these resources. So for this topic, I've been able to explain a few things. Understanding the challenge of digital divide in education. I've shown you how Repurposing Africa have explored these digital materials, and also how implementing strategies and overcoming challenges come along. Thank you very much. I tried to leave time for questions. I know there will be questions.
Just to understand better, in rural in Africa you don't have hardware. So how can you go to the child and teach tech if you don't have a computer?
Okay, so So why I spoke about infrastructure is because every time we have to deliver tech lessons in these schools, we have to bring things like power, internet, laptops, digital devices. For instance, when we had to talk about virtual reality, we had to, more like rent some virtual reality tools to show the children. And this is where infrastructure comes in. This is where the challenge comes in. It's demanding, as you can see, and that's why if the government or stakeholders understand that these resources can get to these children, but they need to provide infrastructure, then it makes the work really easier for them.
Here in Italy we don't have this problem. Here in Italy we don't have this problem with infrastructure. We have a lot of computer in our school. The problem is to find good content for children, because we always say that we have the digital book, but the videos are very boring. If you show to the children, it's not so effective to our teaching process. So the point here in Italy, where we don't have hardware and connectivity issue, is to find good contents to our students.
Yeah, one of the things I will say here is that for every country, there are challenges. And I think every country has a divide in one way or the other. It's just that for some countries it's more, for instance, for Africa. So for us, getting the right content is important as well. And that's why I described here for these steps. The path to identify content is a very rigorous process for us, because we need to be able to use contents that the children will be able to consume freely and happily as well, and that the educators will be able to deliver those contents. So before we narrowed down to using Scratch and TechShikan resources, we went as far as not just collaborating with these organizations for TechShikan. For example, we've been collaborating for over 3 years now, but we also tried to do some realistic surveys around the schools and see how the children will engage these resources, and it's been interesting. So for instance, when we engaged the children with TechShikan resources, where the children would learn fun things about virtual reality, what it really is and what it is used for, and how they can basically enjoy it. We don't have to do anything extra. What we needed to do was just play the video of virtual reality, and then show them what virtual reality is, give them some virtual sets to explore, and the excitement is really interesting. So I think the idea here for you would be to spend more time identifying content. And to identify content, you need to work with the school, work with the educators, and work with the children as well. These three stakeholders are needed before you begin to deliver those contents to them.
Do you have a general content that all the schools share, or for the training of the teachers? Or is that also personalized according to the school and the area where the school is?
Yes, so basically every educational system, for instance, taking Nigeria for instance, they have curriculums that they have to maybe, let me use the word, follow for their lesson plans. So while we work with these educators is that we try to fit in our lessons into the curriculum of the school. So we are not changing the process, rather we are improving the content of what the children are getting. So instead of the children to learn concept of technology from an educator that doesn't know the concept of technology, we deliver concept of technology using these repurposed materials, and the children now understand the concept of technology, and they can now relate with it more visually, and they engage with the content. So we still use the curriculum, but we infuse proper quality into the curriculum that the school delivers. And it is on a school-to-school basis. So as you know, rural schools, even if they have all content as one, the pace of delivery is not the same across different schools. So we try to engage with the educators and the management of the school to see where the children are, see the type of children we have in the class. As you know, learners are different. Some learners like to learn visually, different kind of learners, and the pace of their learning. And then we use this to basically build our curriculum so that there's no some sort of gap anywhere. And I think one of the interesting things we do after our training, like I said, is that we ask the children for feedback directly before talking to the educators, because then it helps us to know the areas where we would improve on our lessons and basically area where they actually have needs. Yeah.
Other question? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Is this material available? Is it shared with other, we say, in Italy there is the problem of finding updated material for schools. So is it material that is shared with other countries, or is it just specifically for your project?
Yeah, this is for our project, but if you need us to share, we will share. We are looking to open sourcing our materials in this coming quarter. So yes, you just have to reach out to me and share with you. Thank you very much.